SVC Media.
Welcome to the iGaming Daily Podcast, analysing the news from the betting and gaming industry all over the globe, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market.
When global gambling looks towards new growth regions, Latin America is usually the go-to. Often overlooked is Africa, but with growing economies across the continent, could Africa be iGaming's next big opportunity? One company which certainly thinks so is EveryMatrix, and today on iGaming Daily, I'm joined by EveryMatrix's Head of Sales for Africa, Mark Schmidt. iGaming Daily is brought to you by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. Mark, thanks for joining us. You recently wrote an article for SBC News on this very topic. But first of all, could you just briefly introduce yourself to our audience? You know, what's your experience in the industry and what brought you into the role that you're in today?
Yep, thanks for having me, Charlie. So I've been in iGaming now primarily, pretty much exclusively in Africa for the last 15 years, across senior roles, across both the B2C and B2B. Started off probably with the best university I could have gone to, with which was an operator, the premium operator in South Africa, being Hollywood Bets, and running their sportsbook there with a group of guys, like-minded guys as myself. And then went on to join the B2B world and the commercial world with companies like Sportradar, IMG Endeavour, Sporting Tech, and then now the opportunity arose to join EveryMatrix with their big kind of expansion into Africa as a whole. So yeah, one of those opportunities I couldn't turn down.
Fantastic. And we're talking about sort of Africa as a whole here, but specifically your article mentions South Africa and Tanzania in particular. Could you give us an overview of the market dynamics in South Africa? You know, what's traditionally happened in the market and what are the key nuances that listeners need to consider when thinking about this market? Yeah,
sure. So look, there's a long history of sports betting in South Africa as a whole. If you look back even past, the advent of sports betting, traditional land-based casinos have been around for years and years in South Africa and have a very strong association with them. So the casino player and the built-up understanding of how casino works in South Africa has all been there. There's also a very strong background in terms of horse racing and on-course bookmakers. And then when everything kind of translated to online, in the early 2000s, there were a few companies that picked that up really strongly. So I mentioned Hollywood Bets earlier on. They're pretty much one of the founders within South Africa. But with that background in land-based casinos, the boom of online casino, which we've seen in the last, maybe 4 years or so since it became, regulated in South Africa, is pretty much unprecedented across the continent as a whole. So, from that point of view, the uptake in terms of not just, these crash games that you're seeing such a big success with around worldwide, but other verticals within casino. So the live casino options, live roulette, blackjack, etc., game shows, and then particularly for South Africa, slots. So it's really helped the industry grow here. It's a market that is controlled primarily by two operators. However, the actual size of the market is significant. If you look at the numbers released for the last financial year, you're looking at about just over 2 billion euros worth of GGR. Which when you put that up against some of the more established markets, South Africa goes toe to toe with them in a big way. So I think some of the parts we'll probably get into, I'm sure later on, is just the opportunities for operators now that will be in South Africa, that are in South Africa, to kind of expand their business. And then also new operators looking to make a move into South Africa and what those opportunities are.
Great. That's really interesting. It's good to know that traditional land-based presence has sort of influenced the player dynamics and those demands in the market. And it's useful for operators to know what types of content works best. But you mentioned some of the key figures briefly there. There is a massive opportunity in South Africa. Could you just outline why EveryMatrix thinks that South Africa is such an enticing market to go into compared to some other markets, and why this is, one of the key global opportunities that you're going after?
Yeah, I think a lot of it links back to, that number, that GGR number I referenced a couple of minutes ago, just being over 2 billion euro. And with the market being kind of dominated by two key players, key operators in Hollywood Bets and Betway, they make up a large portion of that GGR, but a significant part of it is made up of everybody else that's currently operating in South Africa. Now, if you look at the opportunity to grow in terms of those operators outside of the top two, or even let's say the top five, their growth potential is significantly stagnated in my point of view, and shared by the team at EveryMatrix, and that the opportunity to access cutting edge turnkey tech that allows them to maximize their growth, to understand the player demands, understand what products need to be rolled out, is crucial. And speaking to operators within South Africa, and I'm very fortunate to have a lot of close friendships with C-level execs across South Africa that run operations here, and the frustrations are never ending in terms of what they have and what they're working with. So I suppose it's like you're trying to take on to trying to win a Formula One race with a bicycle. It's not going to happen. And we know with what we've done worldwide, the work that I've done in the background with the team. We'll touch on the FSB acquisition and how that helped us, with the South African expansion. But we just know that the products that we have are first in class. There's a different approach. It's not just you getting if you look at the South African operators now that are by and large using, two key providers that are covering 80% of the market. It's the same product suite. It's the same casino offering. It's the same front end. The front end, the only differentiator from a front end perspective is a few cosmetic changes, in terms of color waves, etc. But, we are able to kind of offer a fully unique and bespoke product per operator requirements. And I think that's really important. There's some operators in South Africa that want to be stronger in the sports betting side of things, and there are others that want to really push their casino operations. And then there are two that want to, offer full kind of, cross-path option in terms of both verticals. And we're able to do that depending on what they want.
Great. And I'll come back to the technology side of things, but I just briefly wanted to ask you about the sports side of things as well, and what that mix is between casino and sports bettors. And they are two different types of player. You can try and cross-sell, and that's something that operators are increasingly trying to do. But what is the mix between casino and sports players in South Africa? It's
a tricky one to answer, as it differs significantly per operator. And it comes down to what I mentioned now in terms of the offering that some of these guys that don't have the necessary, good offering and the offering that they should have from casino. Their numbers in terms of sportsbook will be higher because their sports offering is pretty standard, using a standardized feed across the market. There's no kind of customization there. So I would say, from the lower end guys, they might see their sportsbook being 70-30 in favor of sportsbook over casino. But from, the numbers how Betway and Hollywood change things, you're looking at, it could be 60% casino for Hollywood and Betway, and 40% sportsbook. And that comes down to, just those two companies, again, being able to, and they're on their own proprietary in-house tech, they're able to push out casino games when they want to, how they want to, and display it in a way that they know works for their players. And they're not kind of waiting 6 or 7 months for an operator in Europe to get around to, kind of allow them to use the new casino game that they want.
Great. And let's dive into the crux of your piece in SBC News then, which is all about this sort of legacy tech that is being used in the market, and the title itself, ending the overpromise and underdeliver culture in South Africa on the technology side of things. You have briefly mentioned it already, but what is your assessment of the technology in the market currently, and I guess more importantly, why do you think that it is substandard?
I don't believe it's just a South African problem. It's a problem across the continent. So the thought of overpromising and underdelivering is incredibly common. If you speak to an operator in Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, over the years, they would have had the same feedback that they were promised the world, but basically got a tenth or 20th of what they were actually expecting. So in South Africa, it's different in that there's a lack of the tech and the turnkey. I'll talk from a turnkey point of view, from a platform and fees, etc. There's been a lack of choice for the operators. Going back for the last 20 years, there was a legacy provider in South Africa that basically had 90% plus of the market. They're very slow to roll out features. They're very good from a horse racing perspective, but pretty weak across every other vertical within the operation. And that allowed different companies to try and come in, thinking that they would offer something new. The South African operators being, pretty much fed up with what they were kind of being given, which was not much, took the opportunity to speak to, these new providers coming into the market. But then they soon found out that those providers couldn't really do what they had promised either. So I think, there's a lack of hesitancy from the operator side to kind of look at anyone entering the market over the last, we can't take out the last 3 years. Before that, the guys that were entering the market weren't really serious about South Africa. There's also the interesting part and crucial part to consider is the red tape from a regulatory point of view, that's in place. The regulations here in South Africa are incredibly stringent. You are taking, you have to, it's an all-in approach. Everything is covered. Every stone's turned over. Everything it's laid out in the open. It's really good because it's, everybody wants a very well-regulated market to work in. But it also, that hasn't worked well for some companies trying to enter South Africa because the feeling that they're putting their B and C teams, and I might get some kickback for that on this, on that, but the B and C teams on Africa, and it's not really being seen through as it should. So these are things that I'll touch on the lessons that we are able to implement, both from my experience here in South Africa, having been through this numerous times, and as well as the experience that we've onboarded with the FSB team after the acquisition.
SBC Summit Rio is back from the 25th to the 27th of February. Join us at Rio Centro for Brazil's biggest betting and iGaming event. Get your tickets now at sbcevents.com.
And I guess it leads nicely into the question of why these legacy providers have prevailed for so long, really. And you talk about regulation, but is it also that traditionally other companies haven't really seen the untapped potential of the South African market? Why is it that you think that the sort of legacy providers have prevailed for so long and had that sort of 90% of the market that you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to, the regulation side of things and how stringent it is and how much time it takes to actually get done. And, companies, when they see the costs associated with it, they will pull out and they'll do, they'll get, a third of the way out and down and they realize that this is just not too worth their while. But I don't think it's been taken seriously and I don't think it's been done well. And the companies that have entered here before, I don't believe there's a lot of them that have entered and failed. And that comes down to purely just not offering the right product, the right customer support, and understanding the requirements of the South African players. It is an incredibly competitive market. And if you have a sales team that's based on the other side of the world, that's trying to, understand how you work from a day-to-day perspective, the chances of that relationship being successful are pretty much slim to none. And the good part that I have with being here is that I'm in South Africa. I'm in my office now in Durban. We have another office in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. We're able to meet with our clients face to face. We're able to build a relationship outside of business, and we're able to get a real understanding of what their requirements are from like a ground up perspective, which puts us at a really point of advantage compared to who we're competing with in the market. So if you put those together, I think it puts EveryMatrix in a really good position. And, to add to that, we'll be increasing our team over the next year or so significantly, where we'll have localized support to support, players here, in real time, their payment mechanisms that are needed to have support channels, etc. It's just that extra layer that should have been provided before that comes, part of the package with EveryMatrix and how we do business.
Fantastic. And let's talk about EveryMatrix solutions in the market and how you're trying to do things a little bit differently and sort of your role in this as well. So Yeah, what is it that EveryMatrix is bringing to the market that sort of moves things forward, and how do you fit into this as well?
Yeah, it's if you just look at the results of EveryMatrix over the last few years, it's record breaking year after record breaking year, and this past the past financial year we just shattered records once again, and that comes in from clients performing well, new clients wanting to work with us. And the good thing is that money gets invested back into the product that we're able to offer to our partners worldwide. So, I'll talk specifically from a South African perspective. You look at the casino offering that we have. We have the largest casino aggregator worldwide. Our odds matrix products for sportsbook and feeds is again best in breed. You're looking at 170,000 plus live and play games a month that operators can choose from. And outside of that is that we're able to also offer niche products that are suited to the market. So, whereas if you look from a European perspective in the UK, for example, horse racing is a must-have for pretty much 90% of the books there. It's the same here in South Africa. It's a must-have product. It's not a huge turnover product, but if you are seen as not having a suitable horse racing product, you're not really seen as a serious operator in many people's eyes. That can be different with the younger demographic for sure that are looking at sports like esports and, casino, etc. But it's vitally important. And if you look at what we have, just outside, obviously footballs are really, really popular worldwide, especially in the rest of Africa. But in South Africa, there are niche sports that are, crucial here. There's rugby, cricket, golf, etc. that need to be provided at a very high level. And we're able to do that quite easily. So from a sports perspective, we covered. From a casino perspective, then we're more than covered. And then horse racing, as I touched on earlier on, with the acquisition of FSB, they had a world-leading horse racing product that was pushed out to clients. And that product, what we realized very quickly is that although with the FSB acquisition, all our partners, etc., that are moving across to EveryMatrix will be using the EveryMatrix technology, there are certain parts that FSB did particularly well. And one of the parts was horse racing. So you look at that, we'll be building it out now. It's due to launch imminently. And we have a bespoke horse racing product with the knowledge base that we've got from the team from FSB that are now fully integrated into the EveryMatrix systems that is kind of localized specifically for South Africa. So you're not getting a horse racing product where it's a European product or a UK product with all the, bet types and win types and place types. In the UK terms, it's kind of customized to what the South African market, the way that horse racing is seen here and needed to be seen here. So that's very important. And those are just a few of the differentiators. And from my perspective, the absolute must-haves that you need to have in the market. It's crucial to have. But we have so many unique USPs that we can push out to operators. There's the option of early payout where, games are resulted if certain criteria are met within the game through, various algorithms, that there's an early payout for players, regardless of the result at the end. Operator can choose to have that. Our bonus engine, again, sound like a stuck record saying that we are the leaders and, best in breed in this, but we really are. Bonus engine and, jackpot engine, etc., for the bonuses that we're able to give to players is something that's going to really shake up the South African market. If you look at the bonuses that players receive now, they're the same bonuses that they've been getting for the last, 6-7 years. Very, very stock standard. What we are able to offer to the players is that through the operators is that they're able to have bespoke, personalized bonus offers, for each player on player by player level. So, you, Charlie, if you love watching the darts at Ali Pali, and then we know that you're going to get a bonus in your wallet to say like, here we go, have a go at Ali Pali tonight. But it makes no sense to me if I have no interest in darts getting the same promo. It's a bit of a frustration. So, through the back end, we're able to give all of those controls to the operators to kind of give a really more personalized approach to how business is done in South Africa and Africa as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. Bonusing is so important for both acquisition and retention. So it's key for operators going forward. And you also mentioned the FSB acquisition, which is, a huge development for EveryMatrix and really pushes what you can do in terms of the sports side of things. I wanted to touch on the migration for clients as well, because there's going to be a lot of people moving from legacy tech onto the EveryMatrix solution. So what is that process like for customers?
Yeah, it's like a crucial part of our strategy now, because we know that we're going to pick up a lot of key operators in South Africa that kind of fit in and align with our goals and what we have in mind. The conversations are at advanced talks now in South Africa. And a migration of serious numbers is not something that's new to EveryMatrix. It's something that we've done very well in the past. I can reference Bet at Home, for example. That was a migration of 5.5 million players that we were able to do. And then also the Hungarian State Lottery, which we were able to do with a competitor of ours. Also significant numbers that went very well. Where both companies mentioned now we're very happy with the way that migration was done. In saying that, it's not a case of us thinking, well, we nailed it with these two companies, we'll nail it in South Africa. Because that if we continue to, if anyone thinks like that, there's issues are bound to happen. So what's really reassuring for me is that in the background the team has already kind of done the necessary processes and understanding of what would need to happen in terms of the migration. So it's very clearly laid out. The feedback from EveryMatrix is very straight to the point. We're not here to mess around. And you mentioned the overpromise and underdeliver. That's not the way that anything's done in this business at all. It's one of the things that kind of took me by surprise in the beginning. The guys are really straight to the fabric, and that's backed up by knowing what they want. So we're not in the business of telling clients, what they want to hear. It's more what they need to hear. And straight to the facts and giving them a very kind of clear-cut idea of what to expect. So, confidence levels are high. Migrations are really important. It's something that can go really wrong, but, touch wood, and there's all confidence that we will have that wrapped up and there's no concerns from our side there.
Brilliant. Well, Mark, thank you very much for joining us today. I'm afraid that's all the time we have today. Thanks for joining us, and thanks to the listeners for joining us as well. I would urge you all to check out Mark's piece on SBC News. We'll leave a link to that in the description, and join us next time for another episode of iGaming Daily.
Thank you for listening to today's iGaming Daily podcast, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. If you want to find out more about some of the subjects raised today, feel free to explore any of the sites in the SBC News network, or check out the latest edition of the SBC Leaders magazine. Happy reading.